friends. Welcome to the LeggLife podcast. My name is Adam.
My name is Sherry.
Sherry, Beth, what episode is this?
61.
Okay, we need to address it right off the bat.
Yeah.
We talked about it on YouTube already.
Yeah.
But we have not put out a podcast in like a month.
Yeah, it's been a few weeks.
Now, there's a reason for that.
Yes.
I think the best way for you guys to understand what's been going on, go over to LeggLife on YouTube and watch our video, our like where we've been video that we posted here in the last few days. Short story, COVID. It got both of us. It wasn't fun. We are back though.
We're back.
And we're exciting. We're very exciting. We're excited. Also, I do feel like we should say this. COVID brain's a real thing.
Oh my gosh.
And you may notice it in the next couple podcast episodes.
Yeah, our brains don't work well.
Well is a very loose term. Some would say at all.
At all. Well.
So we thought, you know what episode are we going to come back with? What are we going to talk about? And then it just kind of, I don't know, this feels natural because we just had two friends who stayed with us for an entire week and they just left.
Yes. And right before they got here, we were Marcoing with another friend.
Yeah, just about the topic we're going to talk about today. If you have watched our videos, you know that one of the things that, or if you know us in real life, one of the things that we do a lot is open our home. Yeah. It's just kind of something that is sort of natural to both of us, but we've realized is weird to other people and like not natural.
Not natural to others.
And so our friend who Marco'd us, and just so you guys know, Marco Polo is like a video chat app that we love and we use with our friends. And she was just kind of asking some questions about how we do that, why we do that. Just kind of saying like she wants to do that, but there's a lot of like kind of hurdles to get over.
Yeah, and you know, she's introverted and she doesn't really want people in her space, and like how do you handle that? And yeah.
All of that. And so we thought on this episode, we'd talk about why in the world do we open our home? Like but then also like what are the safety precautions that we put in place? Like, do we just let anybody in our home? Kind of how does it work? And this is actually something that both you and I, we're on the same page with this completely. Yes. Like we feel the same way. And so first I just want to touch on some of the some of the reasons why we do this. Yes. And I'm going to start with kind of just even a big one. If you've watched our video on why we can't have kids, one of the things that we talked about in that video was just redefining what legacy looks like. Right. You know, we bought a 3-bedroom townhome thinking that there was a very high possibility that one day one of those bedrooms would be a nursery, would be a kid's room. Right. Something like that.
Yep. Because we were sort of on track for like adoption.
Yep. That
or fostering or
that obviously never happened. And so then for us the question was like, well, we have this room, what is the best use of it? Right. And we knew that not being able to have kids and kind of our unique stage of life really did kind of put us in a unique place to I don't know, help maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
And so really from the first time or from the earliest days of owning this place, we've always loved having guests and using our home. Yeah. I mean, there was even a while that we were renting out our guest room on like Airbnb.
Yep, we did do that. I was less comfortable with that.
Well, rightfully so, because that was a very, very different, very, very different kind of setup. Right. But it was sort of like, well, we have this guest room. How will we use it? Let's just rent it out.
And it was still kind of fascinating because we did get to meet people from all over the world.
I'll never forget, we had this young couple from Turkey stay with us. And they left us like the most amazing Turkish coffee gifts that we still have to this day. Yeah. And so that's kind of where we started. But then we kind of had this, I don't know what you'd call it, just sort of this desire to use our home as a place of peace and like respite for people.
Yes. So I think I was trying to remember kind of the first person that we had here long term. Yeah. Like more than just, a night or two like Airbnb. I think it was our friend John.
Yeah, I think it was John too. And just so you guys know, it's interesting because you all have seen a very small portion of the people that we've had with us. And so like the last couple of years, obviously you've seen Auburn. Obviously many of you guys have been around longer. You saw our friends Kelly and Caleb, Deanna and Marshall, who were just here. But there's been a lot more people.
Right. But we've owned our home since 2008.
And we've kind of done this the whole time.
Right. And we didn't start vlogging until 2015. So there's 7 years of kind of
guests
that we never showed.
And so I do think our friend John was the first one. John was with us for about a month.
Yep.
Basically, like, his family was moving back to Alaska, but his job moved him up here first and needed a place to stay. And it's like, well, stay with us for a month.
Right, before their house was ready.
Yeah, and they're great friends of ours. So for us, like, there was no safety issues or concerns. Like, we knew them. We loved them. They were basically family to us.
Right, like, we had known them for years. And so it was just sort of like well, obviously you can stay with us.
Yep. And then we had a friend who was with us for probably 5 months or so. He was going through a really hard season of life. And to me, like, he really is kind of he's why I want to use our home the way we do.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, to me, just being quite honest, like, I genuinely believe, like, he's still alive because we were able to step in and, like, help the way we did.
Yeah.
And so that to me was just like, hey, we have a room. Come be safe.
It gave him a safe place to land.
Yeah. Come be safe. And here's a place that you can just, like, get on your feet and be while you figure your life out.
Right.
And so I love that. We had my mom stay here for a long time. What was that like? What was it like having your mother-in-law stay in your house?
Honestly, easy, because she's super low key, and I think she enjoys her own alone time as well. Like, she's used to living alone.
Yeah.
And so she had no problem, like, hanging out with us or not. Like, it really wasn't like, I feel like I need to entertain.
Yep.
You know, it was really just like we could do our own thing and have dinner, you know. Like, it was very low key.
So you just said, I mean, and just so you guys know, Sherry and I have talked zero about this podcast before
he marked with me at work, and he was like, I think we should do this. And I was like, okay.
We've obviously talked for hours and hours about using our home this way in the past.
Yes.
But, like, zero about this podcast. But you said something that I'm so glad you said, because I think it's an important transition, because there are different kinds of house guests. Like, Deanna and Marshall, who we had here, like, they came up here for a week, and, like, we knew that the purpose of their trip was a week-long Alaska vacation. We wanted to provide them a place that could be restful and peaceful, that, you know, they could check off a bucket list item without having to worry about the cost of hotels or Airbnbs in Alaska. And that we were going to...
cars and everything that goes along with traveling to Alaska.
All that stuff.
Right.
But, like, the purpose of their trip really was, like, vacation. So we're going to go out and do stuff with them.
Yeah.
Right? But, like, not all house guests are that way. I mean, I think of my mom, who's with us for a long time, Kelly and Caleb, who were with us for a long time, even Auburn, who was with us for a long time twice. Guests who are with you longer, it's really, in some ways to me, it's pretty easy because there's not this need to constantly entertain.
Right. Yes, I think that because we know that we have time, like, it's not just like how much can we fit into a week. It's really kind of like, what do you want to do this week? Let's pick 2 things. And then, you know, it's easier, I think. And they just sort of fit into, like, the rhythm of our life.
Completely. Now, for you as an introvert, you like your own space. Our home tends to be your kind of retreat.
My sanctuary.
Your sanctuary, perfect. What is it like having guests here, but you even, like, I don't know, like, you've been much more welcoming to people in our home than I would expect somebody with your personality to be.
Yeah, I think part of it is I grew up with people in and out of our home. We had exchange students. We had my sister's best friend that lived with us for a few years. You know, I feel like we just always kind of had people in and out, and so I'm used to it. It's not like this foreign thing for me.
Like, using your home for, like, hospitality and welcoming and other people, that's, like, a value that you were just raised with. Right. Okay.
Yep. So it's kind of ingrained in me, but also especially I think within the last few years, I think I've been a lot better with, okay, I need my own space and I will retreat to our bedroom, or, you know, I'll curl up in my chair upstairs and put a book in front of my face, and people just sort of generally know not to bother me. And so, and I think honestly, like, so Auburn is the one who stayed with us the longest. twice, and she and I are very similar in that, like, there were a lot of times that she and I would just be upstairs reading and not say a word to each other because we both needed, like, our time and our space.
Yeah.
We were in the same room, but we didn't feel the need to, like, entertain either one of us, which I think is really helpful as well.
Oh, completely.
So I'm free to be myself and free to disappear if I need to, and generally the people that we have stay with us know that, and so they're not like offended, like, oh, she hates me. Like, it's just she needs time.
Yeah.
Like, I need to recharge.
Well, and I think that that's really helpful to know. Before we have people come stay with us, most of them obviously know us.
Right. Aside from the Airbnb people, it's always been people that we know.
Yeah.
At least some.
At least some.
At least some. Like we hadn't known Auburn very long before she stayed with us, but it gave us an opportunity to get to know her. Mm-hmm. We met Deanna and Marshall at the airport and then brought them to our home.
But I will say, in both of those situations, though, I mean, those are people that had watched a lot of our life.
Right.
And so they knew us. And so neither of them were surprised, like, when Sherry needs, like, time, like, they know that because they know us already.
Right. And it's not like there had been no communication. Like, we had communicated with all of them a lot before they actually came to stay in our home. And so I was comfortable knowing that I kind of know who they are a little bit too. Like, I know their personality and I know, things that they're going to need too. And so it really hasn't been like an inconvenience for me.
Yeah. And I think that that's one of my biggest, not concerns, but like before the conversation starts about having somebody come visit, Sherry and I always talk so much about what that would mean.
Right.
Right. And both of us have veto power that if it's like, you know what, can't do it right now.
Right. I'm not in the mental space to do this.
Then it doesn't happen.
Right.
Then it just simply doesn't happen.
Yep.
And so I think that that's helpful that you and I have so many conversations before.
Yeah.
But now I want to talk a little bit about, because it could seem like, boy, the Legs just like give everybody a key and everybody can come over, and eventually like we just get robbed, right? like we are super trusting people, but at the same time, like there are some kind of security things that we have in place. Like, we don't just invite anyone into our home.
Right. And I think this is, have we talked about this on a podcast, my intuition?
No, I don't think so. And if we have, they can hear it again.
I feel like we've mentioned it in like the Enneagram kind of stuff.
Oh, maybe,
but like,
yes.
I feel like for the most part, I mean, there's people that slip through the cracks, but I feel like for the most part, I'm good about reading people and getting like a vibe from people. Mm-hmm. And I can usually tell if they're going to be somebody that we can trust and that we'll get along with. Like I said, people have slipped through the cracks and it's been not great. But for the most part, I feel like really we do kind of go on my intuition. And I feel like there's been a few times and I'm like, no, I don't want them in my home.
Yeah, and I think that that's really important because, like, you guys don't see that, right? And there have been times, and there's people, we don't just let anybody in. Right. It is a conversation. It's a conversation about Sherry's intuition. It's a conversation about safety. It's a conversation about all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. And
we've asked people to leave.
And we've asked
because they stayed here a night, and I was like, nope, I don't like it.
Yeah, nope, that's exactly right. And so, like, we trust that intuition kind of over anything when it goes to this kind of stuff. Yeah. So we also, I don't know, we want our home to be a place of, like, and I touched on this earlier, like real rest. I mean, Sherry and I really do try to have the most, I don't know, like drama-free, stress-free sort of existence possible. Right. We really do love our home to be this peaceful sanctuary. And we know that that kind of a place can be a real, like, respite for people. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, people who are in a place of life where it's like they could use that, oh man, we love using our home that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that is such a gift. And so now I want to talk a little bit about Sherry, like what have we gotten out of having people stay here? Because it's not just like here's the thing. It's not just a totally selfless act. You know what I mean? Because, I mean, you and I have had benefits.
Yeah.
Of having people stay here.
Yeah.
Like, what's that?
I think that it opens our world a little bit. I feel like, especially for me, it would be really easy for me to become a hermit.
Yeah.
And I, kind of get into a routine of go to work and come home, go to work and come home, and like not do anything, not go anywhere because I don't want to, because I'm tired, because whatever. So I feel like having people here is kind of a push to get out and like do things. Like we live in a beautiful state.
Yeah.
And, when we have people up here, it gives us an excuse and a reason, I guess, to like go explore. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we do some on our own, like the two of us, but I feel like it's always ramped up when we have people staying with us.
Very 100% agree.
Because we want to show off our state, because we love it.
Yeah.
Which makes us go to new places and do new things, or go to the same places and do the same things that we love.
Yeah.
So I think, like, for me, I think that's a good benefit, because I can definitely see myself, like, falling into a routine of not going anywhere or doing anything.
Just like staying in your sanctuary and being happy in your blanket and books.
Yep.
I think that for me, it's one of the same things that I love about traveling. So one of the things I love about traveling is when you meet new people and see new cultures and experience new cultures and try new food, your world expands, right? Like you experience things that are different than what your normal life is. And I think that's a very good and healthy thing. When you have people stay in your home, that kind of same thing happens, but like the world comes to your front door in some way.
Right.
I think back to, I'm just thinking now, we had a friend, our friend Joel from Washington State come up, and Joel stayed with us for just a couple nights. He was up here for Comic-Con, and Joel took us to our very first Comic-Con. And like we spent evenings at home talking about like Comic-Cons and like comic books. And that's a whole world and subculture that we have never been involved in.
Right.
That
was fascinating.
It was fascinating.
Yeah.
And I love that we had that experience. And the reality is like, if we wouldn't have like had Joel come up and like stay with us, we never would have had that experience or gotten kind of a peek into that world.
Right.
And so I just think that the people who come into your home help expand my world and our world.
Yes. And I think viewpoints. I think
true.
that like people that stay with us, we tend to have like deep discussions with, especially if they're here for a while and kind of get comfortable with each other. Like, there's so many times that we've just had really good, deep discussions, and discussions that would not have happened if we were just Marcoing or emailing or, there's something about sitting on the couch with somebody, drinking your coffee or your tea and just like talking, that just opens up this whole world, and you get these different viewpoints, and I love that part.
I feel like, to me, it's one of the ways to make friends become family the quickest, because of exactly what you just said. I mean, when the Zachmans came up, I just think of the Zachmans and Auburn and us just like hanging out in the living room, and it's like that's where family was formed. Like, we were friends, we all knew each other, we all liked each other, but there was something about together in the same space that like family is formed.
Yep.
And I can say that about so many people that have stayed with us.
Yeah.
They're like, that's where family was formed. And I love that.
And I think because you're in a peaceful, relaxing setting where you can have these deep discussions, it's not going to ruin the friendship. Like, we can disagree and we can get, dig deep and expand each other's viewpoints,
and we're still friends,
and we're still friends. Like, it's you know,
we ended the night by still opening a bottle of wine and having coffee the next morning,
right?
And like, we're still friends.
Yeah, deeper friends, I think, usually.
I totally agree.
Yep.
I agree with you. I love that part. Sherry, if there was somebody who was thinking about like, you know what, I would kind of like to do that, but I'm a little bit scared, like, what are some tips you would say for people who are thinking about using their home in that way? Do you have any thoughts?
Make sure you and whoever is living in your home are on the same page with it.
Yes.
Because I do think, like, you would open our home to literally anybody.
Oh, if it was me, I would have, like, my friends who are, like, out there experiencing homelessness tonight, especially on cold winter nights. I'm just like, I could sleep 15 people in our downstairs. You know what I mean? Like, but it's like, again, that's like, that can be a safety thing. That's an uncomfort thing. That's something that you and I are not on the same page of.
Right.
And so, yeah, completely.
Yep. So I think, making sure that you're both in agreement.
And can I one more touch on that?
Yep.
If you are the person in your relationship who tends to be more,
Intuitive.
No, what's the opposite of that? Like, what am I? I'm more no, not whimsical, more free.
Maybe, yeah.
If you're the person in the relationship that is more free, submit to the person who is more intuitive.
Yeah.
So that's really important, because what Sherry just said, like, I would give like the city of Anchorage keys to our place. But like, for me, in order for Sherry and I to be on the same page, I have to like bow my will to hers and prioritize her over me in that.
And trust that my intuition is going to save us both.
Yeah, and keep us from getting robbed. And
right.
Yeah, no robberies, no murders. That's the goal.
Yep.
Okay, what else?
Know yourself, I think. If you're introverted, know that you need time away and take that time. And I think that there was, there's definitely been a few times where I have pushed myself harder because I feel bad about like disappearing, or I don't know, like I feel like I have to entertain.
Sure.
And, I'm the hostess and I need to entertain, and I need to have the meals, and I have to, have everything figured out. And I just put a lot of pressure on myself and burnt myself out. And so I think know yourself, know your own limits. And if you need a break, take a break. Mm-hmm. And if you need to explain to people, hey, I need a break, I'm not mad at you, I just need to recharge, do it. Like, let them know.
I love that.
And if they don't like that, they can find somewhere else to stay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like, it's, this is your home. And if your home is your sanctuary, you get to make those rules.
Yeah. Figure out what the guidelines and the boundaries are to invite people into your sanctuary.
Yeah.
And not just your own personal stuff, but even like around lengths of time.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we've had people stay with us that we've had to have like a very clear, it's like, okay, like, you get 30 days, you know what I mean? Or you get 5 months. And like the person we had to ask to leave, this was years ago. Like, there was a boundary that was broken as far as like length of time. And it was like, all right, sorry, time to go.
Yep.
And so I just think like knowing what your boundaries are, that you and whether it's your partner, your parent, whoever you share a space with, everyone is on the same page, but also that your guest is on the same page. Because I think that like, unclear expectations will almost always lead to hurt feelings.
Yep.
And so that they know, like Deanna and Marshall, like I said, they were coming up here. We knew this was like full on vacation mode. We're going to show them Alaska. Like, we're going to blow their minds with things they can do. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you and Deanna have some similarities in like health issues.
Yep.
And so we knew that
we had to build in downtime.
Exactly. We had to build in downtime and like break days and rest days and all that kind of stuff. And so we all went into this last week with very clear expectations.
Right. Yep.
It's like we all knew that because
we're not going to plan 12-hour days every single day.
No.
Like, we can't do it.
No.
And so, it was easier, honestly, having somebody who also has health issues kind of understand that. And she and I talked about this a lot, like, that it was, I can easily push myself too hard and then I crash.
Yep.
And
then you pay the price for even longer.
And then I pay the price. And so, having built-in downtime was actually really great for me as well. Like, she really needed it, but so did I.
Yeah, it worked out really well.
Yeah.
And we do have other house guests. They're coming. We have one who's coming
at the end of June.
End of June. Mm-hmm. I think that's the only person
we have planned right now.
It's the only we have planned right now. Knowing us, I'm sure we'll probably have, lots more.
Some strays.
But again, for us, like, this is, and I hate even using this word because I think it sounds so cheesy, but like, it is like a little bit of like a ministry.
Yeah.
I love that we were able to provide not just an Alaska vacation for Deanna and Marshall, but like some rest and some life, a place that they could sleep in or wake up early, and whenever they needed, the coffee was ready. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I also think that we have a really unique house.
What do you mean?
Like, the setup of our house is really unique.
Oh, it does work good for this.
Yep. So we have a split level house. Downstairs is the kitchen and the dining room and a full bath and the studio and the guest bedroom. And the studio can easily turn into another bedroom if we need it, and we have before.
Yep.
And between the kitchen and the kind of hallway that leads to the bedrooms and bathroom, we put curtains up. Mm-hmm. And so you can actually close the curtains and kind of have your own little space. Like you don't have to be like fully clothed to go from the bedroom to the bathroom, because those curtains are drawn, and when the curtains are closed, that means we don't come in.
Yeah.
Like this is your space.
Yeah, so we can come down and like we can have our coffee in the morning.
Yep.
Curtains are closed, then like we don't even see anything over here.
Right. And upstairs, directly above the kitchen, is our bedroom.
Yep.
And then the living room is above the bedrooms that are downstairs. And so even, opposite sides of the house, different floors and opposite sides. And so it's really like we kind of have our own space and they have their own space. And it's, I just feel like we have a really unique setup for guests because we can kind of separate our house into different zones.
That's actually a really good point that I hadn't thought about. Because I do think that we would probably not be as open, maybe, if we didn't have that. Because I think of, like, when we travel, you do not love staying, with some exceptions, like Ireland was a different exception.
Right.
You don't love B&Bs, bed and breakfast, because you don't like feeling like you're staying in someone else's space, like you're intruding in their space.
Right. So usually if we do, like, an Airbnb, we will rent an entire place. I don't want to have to walk through somebody's house to get to my bedroom. Mm-hmm. That's very uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
And I feel like that would be uncomfortable for me if people were living in my house and they had to walk past my bedroom to get to theirs.
Yep. And so you like being able to break it up.
I like being able to break it up, and I like kind of each having, our own space.
Yeah, I love that. That's actually a really great point. Do you think, there's no way to know this, but as you think forward to the next 3 years, is this the kind of thing that you would like to keep doing? Or is it like, we've had a lot of guests, I think I'd like to cut back? Is it like, how are you feeling about kind of the way we use our home?
I actually like it. And again, like, I feel like it's not often, it's not like we're full every night of the year.
Yeah. Full. It sounds like a Marriott.
But, and even when we rented it out on Airbnb, we had blocks of time. They were just like, nope.
Yeah.
We don't want people here. And so I think that I think I'm fine, like, continuing. Because we do kind of space them out. Like, we rarely go from, like, guest to guest to guest to guest. Like, there's always time in between so that I can recharge fully. And, yeah, I think the way that we do it is healthy, and, I think it's great.
I think it's great too. I'm the same with you. I don't see us changing, the way we do it. I just remember, and I don't remember when it happened, but it was shortly after we bought our home. It was before we had a guest here. And I think it was actually one of the things that led us to start doing Airbnb was just the thought, like, we have a guest room that I think, sat empty 360 nights a year. And I just simply remember thinking, what a poor use of that resource. You know what I mean? Like, like, what a poor use of that resource. And so I love the fact, again, that we've been able to provide, experiences and memories and just a place for people to be, because here's the thing, Alaska's an expensive place to visit,
right?
And so if we can help our friends and our family have one less expense, and it lets them actually get to experience Alaska and sit in our living room and have their coffee and look out at the mountains and just be amazed at this place we get to live.
Right.
Like, I love that.
Yep, me too.
So friends, there you go. That's why we do it. That's kind of how we do it. It does help that we're both pretty hospitable and really love kind of sharing our space. Like Sherry mentioned, it helps the space we have. But we want to hear from you guys over on YouTube. And the way we do this is go over to search LeggLife Podcast on YouTube, click that subscribe button, and then find this episode and let us know. Do you think we're crazy?
Do you have people in your home? Do you like it?
Is this the kind of thing, like our friend who we were Marcoing with, who she would like to do this, but it's kind of like, how do I do that?
I don't really want people in my space.
Well, but here's the thing. We also mentioned, one more side thing, one of the reasons we are able to do this is that we are a unique state. Like, we don't have kids in our home.
Right.
If we had kids in our home, we would probably be very, very, very selective about who stayed with us and for how long.
Correct. Yes, absolutely.
Completely. And so...
Because it's not just our safety, it's theirs as well. Like, more so than ours.
And so for us, the kind of the stage of life that we're in without having kids, it's just Sherry and I, it does let us be more flexible with the use of our home.
Yes.
And so I think all of those things will determine how you could do this or something similar. Or are you somebody who's just like, nope, my home is my sanctuary and like that's what I want it to be. And just so you know, there's not a right and wrong to this.
Absolutely not.
Like completely. Like if we decide one day, you know what? Like we're going to kind of stop doing that and this is just like our space. That's not like a bad decision or a wrong decision.
Right.
There's not a right and wrong in this. So go over there, leave a comment. Let us know where you fall on this issue. Sherry, we are mostly recovered from COVID.
Yeah. I think our brains are still a little foggy and our energy levels are still wanting.
Does it feel nice to be back?
It does, yes.
It does for me too as well. And I actually want to end this podcast by saying hello to two people.
Okay.
And they're two people. This is why I was so determined to not miss another podcast this week. Your sister commented on one of our Instagram posts recently about how much our nephews have missed the podcasts.
Yeah.
So Ian and Tobin, we love you guys so much. And I will say, we cannot wait for you two to come back and be house guests again.
Yep.
So when I was like, oh, crap, we let the nephews down.
I know.
Ugh.
I know. I'm sorry.
But we're back. We're back, and that's what matters. All right, friends, we love you guys, and we'll see you next week on the LeggLife podcast.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.